Gustavo Petro's presidency, which began in August 2022, marked a significant shift in Colombia's political landscape. Petro campaigned on promises of social justice, wealth redistribution, and structural reforms aimed at reducing inequality. However, as his administration surpasses the halfway mark, many Colombians and economic analysts are raising concerns about the adverse effects of his policies on the nation's economy. Colombia, like many other countries, was grappling with economic challenges due to the 2020 health crisis and global inflationary pressures when Petro took office. Despite these challenges, Colombia showed signs of recovery in 2021, with a relatively strong growth rate and resilient sectors such as oil, mining, and agriculture. Petro's presidency, however, has brought economic uncertainty, particularly due to his plans to overhaul the country's economic model, which relies heavily on oil and extractive industries. One of Petro's first significant economic moves was to push for a tax reform aimed at increasing taxes on the wealthy and large corporations. The goal was to generate additional revenue to fund social programs and reduce poverty. The reform introduced new taxes on high-income earners, capital gains, and property, as well as a controversial wealth tax on individuals with assets exceeding 3 billion Colombian pesos, which currently stands at around $750,000. While this move was popular among those advocating for wealth redistribution, it sparked fears among investors and business leaders. The increased tax burden on businesses and wealthy individuals led to capital flight, reduced investment, and a slowdown in private sector job creation. As a result, many businesses have opted to relocate or reduce their operations, leading to higher unemployment and decreased economic activity. Petro's commitment to a rushed green transition has had severe consequences for Colombia's economy. The president has been vocal about his desire to move Colombia away from its dependence on oil and coal, which together account for a significant portion of the country's exports and government revenues. In 2023, Petro announced a freeze on new oil exploration contracts, part of his plan to transition to renewable energy. This decision sent shockwaves through the energy sector, reducing investor confidence in Colombia's ability to sustain long-term energy exports. The freeze has also raised concerns about a potential drop in government revenue, which could lead to higher deficits and increased borrowing. Even those who agree that a green transition is necessary have also worried that a sudden and unplanned shift away from oil risks destabilizing the economy, especially given the country's reliance on this sector for foreign currency and job creation. The drop in government revenues comes in contradiction to other goals that the current administration has. Petro's administration has significantly expanded social programs, including subsidies for low-income families and investments in education and healthcare. While these initiatives have an impact in addressing inequality and improving living standards, they have placed considerable strain on public finances. The government's increased spending has coincided with global inflationary pressures, exacerbating Colombia's inflation problem. In 2023, inflation reached its highest levels in over 2 decades, hovering around 13%. While some of this inflation is attributable to global factors such as supply chain disruptions and rising commodity prices, Petro's fiscal policies have been criticized for worsening the situation. The increased government spending, combined with declining revenues from the oil and mining sectors, has forced the government to borrow more, leading to higher public debt. This fiscal imbalance has raised concerns among economists about Colombia's long-term financial stability. Petro's labor policies have also contributed to economic stagnation. His administration has pushed for labor reforms aimed at improving worker rights, including higher wages, better benefits, and stricter regulations on hiring and firing. While these measures are intended to protect workers, they have made it more expensive for businesses to hire and retain employees. As a result, Colombia's unemployment rate has remained stubbornly high, hovering around 10% throughout Petro's presidency. Informal employment, which accounts for a large portion of the Colombian labor market, has also increased as businesses seek ways to avoid the costs associated with formal employment. The combination of high unemployment and rising inflation has left many Colombians struggling to make ends meet, undermining the president's promises of social justice and economic prosperity. Petro's economic policies have also had a significant impact on investor confidence. The uncertainty surrounding Colombia's energy future, combined with increased taxes and regulatory burdens, has made the country less attractive to foreign investors. According to reports from Colombia's central bank, foreign direct investment fell by nearly 30% in the first half of 2023 compared to the previous year. This decline in investment threatens to slow down the country's economic recovery and reduce opportunities for job creation and innovation. Moreover, Petro's foreign relations approach, which leans heavily towards strengthening ties with regional leftist governments, has raised concerns about Colombia's position in the global economy. His administration's critical stance toward the United States and its lack of strong relations with key international financial institutions have made it harder to secure the kind of foreign support that Colombia may need in times of economic distress. As controversial as many of these measures may sound, the truth is they didn't come as a surprise. Gustavo Petro's journey to the presidency of Colombia in 2022 was far from conventional. A former guerrilla recruiter turned left-wing politician, Petro spent decades rising through the ranks of Colombian politics, advocating for social justice, green policies, and a strong push for equality. His political career has been shaped by his radical beginnings, his changing role in public office, and his unrelenting pursuit of socialist and left-wing policies. Gustavo Francisco Petro Urrego was born on April 19, 1960, in Ciénaga de Oro, a small town in Colombia's Córdoba department. Raised in a middle-class family, Petro moved to Zipaquirá, near Bogotá, at a young age, where he later pursued his studies. It was during his youth in the 1970s, a period of political turbulence in Colombia, that Petro's ideological foundations began to form. At just 17, Petro joined the guerrilla group known as the 19th of April Movement, M19, a left-wing organization that sought to challenge the political dominance of the Colombian elite. The M19 was originally created in response to allegations of electoral fraud in the 1970 presidential election, which many believed had been stolen from leftist candidate Gustavo Rojas Pinilla. The group adopted armed tactics to achieve their goals, engaging in high-profile actions, including kidnappings and assaults on government institutions. The Dominican embassy hostage crisis in Bogotá, Colombia, was one of the most high-profile actions carried out by the 19th of April movement. This event took place on February 27, 1980, and involved the kidnapping of diplomats from multiple countries, including the United States, during a significant international event. During his time in the M19, Petro was not a combatant, but an organizer, primarily focusing on political activism and recruitment. In 1985, he was arrested for his involvement in the group and spent 2 years in prison. In the late 1980s, following a peace agreement between the M19 and the Colombian government, the guerrilla group demobilized and transitioned into a legal political movement. Petro, along with many of his former comrades, abandoned armed struggle. Petro's political career officially began in 1991, when he was elected as a member of the Colombian House of Representatives. Petro's biggest political breakthrough before the presidency came in 2011, when he was elected mayor of Bogotá, Colombia's capital and largest city. His victory marked a significant achievement for the far left, as Bogotá had traditionally been governed by more centrist and right-wing parties. As mayor, Petro launched ambitious initiatives aimed at addressing the city's socio-economic disparities. He expanded subsidies for low-income households, introduced environmental measures like bans on plastic bags, and reformed the city's waste management system. However, his tenure was not without controversy. One of Petro's most polarizing decisions was his overhaul of Bogotá's garbage collection system. Claiming that it would make the service more inclusive and sustainable, Petro transferred control from private contractors to a publicly managed system. The transition was a disaster, leading to widespread garbage collection failures across the city. The situation caused public outcry and earned him sharp criticism from political opponents and parts of the media. In 2013, Petro faced a legal battle when he was removed from office by the Inspector General of Colombia, who accused him of mismanagement related to the garbage crisis. The decision was met with protests from Petro's supporters, who saw the removal as politically motivated. After a long legal fight, Petro was reinstated by a court ruling in 2014, but the controversy surrounding his mayoral term damaged his reputation in certain political circles. After his tenure as mayor, Petro set his sights on the presidency. He first ran in the 2018 presidential election as the candidate for the Colombia Humana movement. He lost to conservative candidate Iván Duque. Undeterred by his 2018 loss, Petro remained a prominent figure in Colombian politics and began preparing for another presidential run. By 2022, the political landscape had shifted significantly. In June 2022, Petro won the presidency, defeating right-wing candidate Rodolfo Hernandez in a runoff election. By just looking at his trajectory, it wasn't hard to foresee that Petro's presidency would stall Colombia's path towards development. This is Latinometry. Subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss our interesting videos about Latin America. Please like and share this video, and thanks for watching.